Praiseworks Health and Wellness presents The Wellness Journey, live with host Linus Woods Mullins. This weekly program showcases the fun and simplicity of wellness for women 40 and beyond. Learn from the experts in the fields of nutrition, fitness, holistic practices, and spiritual fulfillment, and apply life-changing tips that will lead you down the path of total wellness for your mind, body, and spirit. Here's Linus.
Hi, this is Linus from Praiseworks, and welcome to the Wellness Journey Live this week. Boy, what a fantastic last few days we've had on the Wellness Journey Live. If you did not get a chance to listen to Wellness Woman Week that we had last week, you definitely need to give it a listen. I want you to go to my website at praiseworks.biz and click on the Wellness Wisdom podcast series, and for the next week or so, you'll be able to listen to them totally free. We will be offering a special package for that particular podcast series. It was awesome. I interviewed 19 women from the field of mind, body, spirit, wellness for women over 40, and we talked about a little bit of everything. And you know, I always like to say that I really want to bring to you information that maybe might not be readily available, but once you hear about it, it might resonate with you, and then you might decide that, hey, you know what, this is something I need to find out more about, because there's something that's telling me that perhaps this will help me with, for instance, my weight problem, my stress problem, my depression problem, my issue around being in midlife transition and what to do next, or perhaps this information will give me an alternative way to take care of my chronic disease that I have, or high blood pressure, whatever it is that you're dealing with. We had several modalities that we talked about there during Wellness Woman Week, and one of the modalities that we talked a lot about, and I actually heard from some of the listeners about, was the whole idea of energy, what it is, what it isn't, does it really work? And I had given you a testimony right then and there with one of the energy healers we had on the show with us. What a difference my session made in terms of how I was feeling when I went through one of these energy therapy sessions. And some people say, well, how could you do that? I thought you were a Christian and all that kind of stuff. It has nothing to do with your religious belief systems, but it has, I believe, God has put before us that we can use to heal us, regardless of what your religion is. There are all kinds of things that are out there that are natural, provided by nature, that may resonate with you and help you in terms of your overall wellness for your mind, body, and spirit. And today we're going to be talking about that. And specifically, we have with us another guest who also deals with he calls it spiritual surgery using quantum healing energy. Isn't that interesting? His name is Chris, and he is going to bring to us some information that I think will really open your eyes around some things that maybe you haven't considered when it comes to energy. Quite frankly, Chris Kehler is a quantum energy practitioner and healer who specializes in finding trouble areas in the body and the stresses within that area by using the pendulum and chart method of dowsing, which is truly fascinating. I've never come across anything quite like this, and I thought it would be great to share with you some information so you can judge for yourself whether or not this is something that you want to look into further. But I am so honored to have him with us today. Let me see if I can get him on the line here.
Hi, Linus.
Hi, Chris. Thanks so much for being with us here on the Wellness Journey today. I am particularly interested in having you on because our audience has already had kind of an introductory course in terms of the idea of energy and how it can impact how we feel in our mind, our body, and our spirit. But I was wondering if you could share with us in particular your story of how you came to get involved in energy and using it as a healing modality.
I'd love to, Linus. It is a wonderful story in its own right. It was about 8 years ago, coming up to, I think, almost 9 years, my first wife passed away. She had a rare disease called scleroderma, and, you know, that really took its toll on her. Now, before I was doing this type of work, I was in the printing trade. I spent 30 years, almost 30 years in the printing trade, running very large printing presses. I was in management at my local newspaper in Winnipeg. You know, that was my trade. I loved doing it. It was a lot of fun, and dealing with people and all the things that come along with printing was very interesting to me. It was a trade. But when my wife fortunately passed away, my financial planner looked at me and said, Chris, hey, what are you doing working, my friend? Look at your portfolio. You could easily take some time off. So you know what? Long story short, I followed his suggestion. I took some time off, quit work, and I thought, in a year or so I'll go back to work and do something. I was only 47 years old. It's not time to retire yet.
Right.
The old saying goes, one door closes, another door opens. And the long story short is that somebody had mentioned something about some kind of foot bath detox or herbs or something, and I was walking within my local mall, saw a sign on a door, and I looked at it and I said, I think I'm supposed to go in there. I walked in, started learning about all different types of muscle testing and these different modalities for alternative health uses. Just started getting very interested in it, started taking some courses, started learning some different things. And within about a year and a half, I had people knocking on my door. Chris, I hear you can cure diabetes. I hear you can get rid of asthma. I hear you can get rid of the pain in my knee. And I just really looked at what was going on and thought, I think I could probably make a business out of this if I wanted to. I had the financial backing to do it. So sure enough, I met some people in Alberta, Canada, who do this type of work as a business within a clinic. And I looked at their model. I just kind of replicated it here in Winnipeg. And now after I'm going on 6 years of doing this professionally, I've got a completely full schedule every day. I work with everybody all over the world on Skype and on the telephone with this energy work. And the bottom line, Linus, is that it's working. We're actually finding problems within people's health that doctors can't find, that other people doing different types of modalities can't seem to find, and it's working. Bottom line, Linus, it's a success.
And I believe you, because I've had an energy healing session once, and she worked on several things, and I could feel a difference instantly. I don't have chronic disease or any real illness, but I do deal with a lot of stress. I am an entrepreneur. I have 4 daughters who are all in their 20s, and I have a grandchild and one on the way. So I have a full life. And so as a result, there are things that happen with your energy sometimes to kind of get off or whatever. And I could feel the adjustment, almost immediately as she was working with me. But talk a little bit to me about how your particular form of healing works. I know that there are different kinds of healing modalities with energy. How does yours work in particular?
Well, the way mine works, the way it differs, first of all, from a lot of other healing modalities, is when I use a 2-part system. Number one is working with a pendulum and a series of charts I've developed. And now working within my higher self, the pendulum will swing and give me answers. So I'll ask questions like, somebody who comes in and they'll say, well, I have this cough and I just can't get rid of it. I've had it for 6 months. Nothing I do gets rid of it. So I will ask the pendulum, where is the lowest level of vitality? And it'll show me in the lungs, of course. And then the big question is, what is causing low levels of vitality? The pendulum will tell me something like fungus or parasites, or even get into the spiritual realm of things within entities and different types of energies that can be involved, which do play an extremely big part within a lot of health problems. So once we find out where and what, then what I use different types of sacred geometry. And the primary sacred geometry I use is a pyramid. Now, this is not just any old pyramid. This is one that is specifically designed for the work that I'm doing. It's a 5-tier pyramid with 5 different pyramids, all at right angles on each other, and it's loaded up with different crystals and magnets and a lot of different energy-enhancing types of materials. So when I take this pyramid and hold it over the person's head in my office, or if you're on Skype or on the telephone, I hold it over the computer, and then I say the words. Now, here is the big part, is you have to give the energy intent. When you make the intent to neutralize, eliminate, and remove the fungus out of the lungs, at the quantum level, at the deepest level within the body, that fungus just absolutely disappears. So that is the basics.
Okay, Chris. There are some who think, okay, this is weird. This does not sound like something real to me. This sounds like mumbo jumbo. How do you overcome those objections? Because I know there are going to be people out there who are skeptics. I'm not really a skeptic, but what I do say is it may not be for me, but it might be for someone else that's out there So, how do you even get people to realize that this might be something that they might want to consider? Because a lot of people are afraid of things that they don't know.
Right. Now, one thing I do not do with this work is try to sell it. I always watch for people to come my way with it. If I try to sell it, then people are going to look at me with a stink eye. And there's a lot of people in my family, a lot of friends I have, a lot of my current wife's friends who really don't want to hear about this stuff, and they all have their big health problems. And I know that I could help them with that problem in a couple sessions, but they are just not into it. So I leave them alone. I don't try to sell it. So ultimately, it's people looking for this who've tried different types of energy work and are open to the form of spirituality that I work within that are looking for it. So I just leave it open for the people who are looking for it.
Okay. Now, let's talk a little bit about the spirituality piece, because that was something that we hit upon earlier. And just about everyone that I interviewed last week, it was 19 women who are experts in mind, body, spirit wellness for women. Almost all of them uncategorically talked about the importance of spirituality in terms of approaching wellness. So from your viewpoint, how do the spiritual entities affect human health? Why is that so important for us to be spiritually well?
When I look for a health problem, and this is specifically most chronic health problems, something that's been around for, let's say, 6-8 months and longer, there's always going to be some type of spiritual attachment. Now, this could also be an emotional or mental something within there, but generally there's a spiritual component, like some kind of entity or a negative thought or something along that lines. So that is what I call the first veil. Once you remove the veil, which is all the negativity that could be present within somebody's body, then you can go after the physical, which could be bacteria, virus, parasites. So the spiritual component of the health problem is just as important, if not more important, than finding out exactly what the physical is. So when I say spiritual, when I say entities, when we die, when our physical body dies, our spirit, our soul is still in play. So that is still here on the earth. If you haven't ascended, if you haven't crossed over, there are spirits wandering around us every day. There's probably about 5 or 6 in my basement right now where I'm talking here. I can't see them, but I know they're here. I can kind of sense them. And there's lots of spirits like to watch what I'm doing. So they're hanging around. But sometimes there's a mean spirit. So if you were a mean person when you were on the planet here, when you die, you don't all of a sudden change into an angel, become all blessed and divine. You carry on that thought process that you had, and you might want to crawl into somebody's body and try to manipulate it to do certain things. When that happens, when you have an attachment, your body is smart. It fires up its immune system, and then it tries to fight off whatever is there. But it's not a physical thing, so it's going to keep on fighting it, which brings on autoimmune problems. So the spiritual component is extremely important.
Now, that's really interesting, because I know, like you said, there's going to be some that just won't buy into this because of their own religious beliefs, or just because it requires thinking outside the box. But for those who do and want to find out more about it, let's dig a little bit deeper in terms of the whole issue around health problems in particular, and how you're able to make some differences. For instance, those who might be suffering from diabetes and high blood pressure, maybe even heart disease or clogging arteries, how does what you do impact their particular health problem?
Okay, first of all, like you said, you have to think outside the box. So what I always do is I consider, let's take high blood pressure, big problem. Of course, high blood pressure means that there's restriction within the veins and arteries that's causing more pressure to back up through the cardiovascular system. So you got to start thinking, what is within the veins and arteries that is doing that? So when I make a chart, I put all these options on it. The biggest problem I've been finding within people lately, and that I work a lot on it, is a calcium buildup within the veins and arteries. That is, for all intents and purposes, the plaque in your body. That could be also mixed with trans fats and sodium and a bunch of different things, but the basis of most high blood pressure and heart problems that I find is a calcium deposit within your body. What I do is I find that the biggest calcium deposit within your veins and arteries, and then I use my pyramid to clear it out, and immediately within minutes, all of a sudden that component is gone. It just vanishes. It vaporizes at the quantum level. And then we just keep on going further and further into the cardiovascular system to find more plaque, more buildup, more calcium, and keep moving it out. Now, quite often, if you have a heart problem, you have a calcium problem. That doesn't mean that everybody should go and start, doing things with calcium in their bodies. You need to talk to a practitioner in order to find out exactly what your heart problem is. When I move out the calcium, the next day, people are going from laying on the couch with no energy to walking blocks. Without a word of a lie, it does happen. When I'm looking for specific symptoms, somebody's going to call me and say, Chris, I have high blood pressure. My blood sugars are high. Then you start looking, what is their high blood pressure? What is their high blood sugars? What is their migraine headaches?
Mm-hmm. Right. Because everyone is different. Everyone's, your whole chemical makeup, your molecular structure, all of that is different. So trying to paint a cure with a broad stroke isn't always effective, which is what's happening in traditional medicine. But that brings me to another question. In terms of traditional medicine, you mentioned earlier that they should go and make sure, talk with a practitioner when it comes to certain symptoms, get a diagnosis, whatever. But when it comes to working with practitioners, traditional practitioners, are you able to work integratively with them, or have you worked integratively with them before in the past?
Absolutely. The medical system does get a very bad rap, but they still have their place. I can't take an X-ray. I can't do an MRI or a CT scan. So if there's something going on within your body, and I've worked on you a couple times and you still haven't got to it yet, and you go in for an MRI and you come back and it shows that you have stenosis in your spinal column, well, look at that. I can see that right in front of my eyes. I know what to work on now. So that'll lead me in the right direction. So a lot of practitioners call it CAM, complementary alternative medicine. It does work very well together if the physician that you're working with in the allopath field is open-minded to you going to see somebody alternative. There's a lot of doctors who will say, if you're going to go see that witch doctor, I want nothing to do with you. And then there's a lot who will say, okay, let's do this together. And whatever they find, you tell me. Whatever I find, I'll tell him, and we'll fix your health problem.
Let's talk a little bit about fungus, because this is something that's not necessarily new, but it's something that a lot of people are talking about, because let's face it, the Internet has really raised people's awareness in terms of wellness and the kinds of questions to be thinking about and looking at when you do go to your practitioner. Could you just kind of explain briefly what fungus is and why that's so important for us to take a look at that in terms of our chronic diseases and illnesses?
You have to, first of all, look at our bodies. The moisture within our body, the temperature of our body, the darkness within inside our body. It's absolute perfect environments for funguses, mold, yeasts to grow. You add sugar to the mix, and now you've got yourself a cocktail of fungus that can go ahead and do whatever it darn well feels like. Now you start mixing bacteria in with the fungus. Now you got a bacterial fungal infection, which is called different things depending on where it is in your body. But ultimately, there is a double component to the fungus within your body. Now, funguses, when they start to grow and they get out of control, to me, what I always find is generally cancer. Cancer is generally, where I come from and look at it, is a fungus. It could also be a mold and a few different things involved with a whole lot of negative energies mixed in that cause it to do what it does. Whenever I find fungus within people, I really take a close look at, is it mutating into something else? Are the cells within it mutating and changing and causing more growth of the fungus? If you're dealing with any cancer out there, you do want to consider that there could just be a fungus overgrowth within your body. Oil of oregano works very well to get rid of funguses. Now, when you're dealing with fungus, you've also got a very acidic body. So you have to look at your pH. Now, your pH should be average about 7, 7.2, maybe 7.4. If you're in the 5 region, 5.0, you got a very acidic body, which is a perfect environment for parasites, funguses, candida, yeast, and mold.
Right, which is very, very common. And a lot of people know that it exists, but they're not quite sure what to do about it. Now, in terms of protecting one's health energetically, what kinds of things do we need to be doing?
That's a good one, and I always do get a lot of people who ask me that. It is personal to everybody. Everybody kind of needs something a little different. Now, a lot of spiritual people will say, oh, just bring in the white light. It's not that simple in a lot of ways. Some ways it is, but in a lot of ways it isn't. Ultimately, first of all, if you're going to bring in the white light to keep you safe, first of all, you have to get rid of the dark within your body, and that means doing clearings. So we would do probably 2 or 3 appointments of clearings, of digging deep into negative energies, before you can bring in all of these good things to protect you. A lot of people like to use different crystals. Depends what you want to keep away. A crystal called stibnite is really good for keeping entities away. Lots of people will do smudging. Some people will just say certain words to make intent to get rid of things. What I like to tell people to do is if you feel you got some kind of attachment, and everybody at home could try this, what we're going to do is that if everybody stands up, so stand up nice and tall. In your right hand, I want you to envision a 6-foot-long copper rod. So that copper rod is in your right hand. You're holding it like a staff. At the top of that copper rod is a violet flame, and the violet flame is burning brightly. Violet flame is a universal energy that works very well to remove entities and different types of negative energies. Now, when you're holding that rod and you got a big violet flame burning on top of it, I want you to take that rod and bang it on the floor 5 times. So bang, 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 bang. When you do that, that shakes off all types of entities. And a lot of people, if you've just done that, you probably got a shiver through your body. You might have felt a little bit of warmth. You might have felt some kind of change within your body at a very subtle level. That is releasing negative energies. So that is one very good way to protect yourself. Now, there's also a scenario where people will send you bad energy, which means it can be in the form of some type of voodoo, witchcraft, black magic, some type of occult ritual type of energy where even a negative thought toward you be a contributor to a health problem. In that case, if you know somebody is sending you bad energy, if you envision yourself within a mirror and the mirror is reflecting out, that energy will bounce off of it and send it back to them. So that's another thing I do tell people to do. But the easiest thing...
Wow!
Did you feel that?
My goodness gracious. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. It just came out. What was that? Oh.
Yes, see, this stuff does work. Fending off negative broadcasts, or psychic attacks we call them, is another thing. So the mirror, using the mirror is a very important thing. Using the violet flame, is a very good all-encompassing, simple way to do something. And you just do it once or twice and then you're done with it. You don't have to keep on running an intent to keep a mirror around you. I like using the violet flame on the staff because it's easy and you do feel something happening. That's how strong it is.
That's amazing. And I did feel some kind of a demonstration. I'm not exactly sure what it was, but I have to admit that I do feel a little bit better. Now, let me ask you this, because I think this is a question that's on a lot of people's minds. Because our audience, so much of our audience are women, and my business is for women 40 and over. What kinds of work have you done with women who are suffering from the throes of menopause? And I want to say suffering because it's really not suffering. This is a wonderful time of life. It's just that we have this kind of little thing that goes on with hot flashes, mood swings, weight gain, and other things that make us feel not well. What kinds of things have you done to help women cope with some of the side effects of menopause?
There's a couple of things that I have done. Now, first of all, when you're going into this change, what is supposed to be a very wonderful, beautiful transition, if you're having a lot of issues with it, big hot flashes, mood swings like crazy, and a lot of different things happening, you need to think back when you weren't in menopause and you're still having your monthly cycle. Was it an off monthly cycle? Did you have excessive flow? Was there a lot of mood swings? Was there a lot of cramping? So you have to think of that. So quite often, if there was that correlation happening, you have to go into the hormonal system, and I'll look within the ovaries, the uterus, and also within the brain, into the pituitary, the hypothalamus, the thalamus, the pineal, all these glands, and see if there's any disruption. and then correct whatever disruption is there, because our bodies are 100% hormone driven. If you're a 16-year-old boy, you're listening, you know exactly what I mean. Everything is hormone driven within our bodies. If you can correct the hormone production within the body by finding out, is there a virus within a gland, is there some kind of disruption somehow, then that could transcend things into a much easier time for you when you're going through that change of life. Now, there's also something else that I've done. If you're somebody who doesn't have the time to do an appointment, I don't want to talk to that guy. He sounds a little bit off the wall. You know, I want to try something different. I work within radionics. Radionics is the use of frequency. Everything on this planet, everything in front of us, vibrates at a certain frequency. So when I use my radionic device, I have a frequency that is designed to balance female hormones. When you wear a bracelet, it balances your hormones, and this works without a doubt. I've used them on a lot of people. My present wife is one of them, and she swears by the darn things that they do work. They do calm things down. They straighten things out. That is something that you can wear 24/7 to balance your hormones. You can also do some energy work. Now, if you're not into any of that, start eating properly, for crying out loud. Put down the chips, put down the chocolate, put down, you know, all the stuff that's bad for you. Start doing some juicing. Start getting some minerals in your body. Minerals help to balance hormones very good. One of the biggest mineral deficiencies I find within women who are going through some traumatic moments within this time is the mineral boron. Boron is a very big hormone stimulator. So this will help to balance things out quite a bit. There could be mineral imbalances for sure. And within my work, I do look for a lot of mineral imbalances. And quite often it is a very big component to a health problem. Autism, for instance, can be a very, very big mineral imbalance. If your mineral component is good in your body and you still have some issues, it could mean a virus, could mean something within the glands that needs to be cleared out, or you can just wear one of my funky bracelets.
Well, you know what? I like the thing about minerals because I've been kind of studying about this a little bit. I have a good friend in the United Kingdom who's getting ready to release a mineral line here in the United States. And one of the reasons why he's already getting so much support before it's even released is because we know that our soils are depleted here in the United States when it comes to minerals and things like that. That's why people are trying to eat more organic. We're just not getting from our food source all the minerals that we need. And so I could see how mineral components, that taking a look at that might be very value add when it comes to a lot of things that we're currently suffering from. And we see these things popping up now, but all of a sudden you keep hearing about people with peanut allergies, MS, autism, Alzheimer's. And all of these have been tied to the possibility of our food source supply being depleted in such a way that we're not getting the value-add minerals and nutrients that we need to ward off some of these complications. You mentioned something earlier that I kind of wanted to go back to because I'm such a proponent and supporter of this, and that had to do with the oils. You mentioned an oil that would be helping with one of the modalities, but do you use essential oils? Do you recommend essential oils when it comes to working with you? Is that part of your practice as well?
I don't go the essential oil route. I can put the frequency of one within a wristband. When I'm doing the energy work, that is basically where I keep my focus. Somebody wants essential oils, of course, welcome to seek somebody out who does that type of work. And I've heard lots of very good results with using essential oils.
Okay, so your practice mostly has to do with the energy and using your apparatuses and helping people with their skills and adjusting them in such a way where they can remain healthy.
That's basically it. 90% of my work is the energy, and if I do need to suggest any kind of supplement, it's usually in the form of a mineral or some type of supplement that's going to help the problem specifically, like parasites. You know, parasites can be very, very tough. So I always like to use energy work on them, and then I also like to use diatomaceous earth within a person's diet to cut up the parasites. When they take that diatomaceous earth, the molecule of it is almost the hardness of a diamond, and as it goes through your body, it'll cut up any kind of pathogen that's in its way. Now, with diatomaceous earth, I want to talk about that for a second. We talked briefly before about calcium. Now, calcium is one of the biggest killers out there. Now, I'm not saying if you're taking calcium you're going to die. What I'm saying is you need to make sure that your calcium levels are not too high, not too low. You need to know where they are. If your calcium levels are low, You need to know, do I need to take something to absorb the calcium that is already in my body that's not being absorbed, or do I need to take a calcium supplement? Now, diatomaceous earth's main ingredient or main component is silica dioxide. Silica dioxide is a very big component to help calcium absorb into your bones and teeth, and to help clean out the calcium pump within the muscles. So when your muscles contract, it brings in calcium and sends it out instead of building up in the muscles. Very important, especially with calciums, irons, coppers, and zincs, to make sure that the absorption factor is where it should be within your body.
And that's such great information to have, because so many people are not aware of some of these things that we just don't hear about when we're going to traditional medicine, the parasites, the fungus, all of those things. And you're right, they are tough to get rid of. But going to the right practitioners and approaching it in the right way, it can be done. And how you feel after the fact is like, you don't even know how well you're not feeling until after you've cleared some of those things out. And I know a little bit about this because years ago, and it's probably time for me to have another one done or whatever, I had this issue around fungus. And I believe that it really began my journey to wellness in terms of finding out about alternative methods to help me with my challenge. And my challenge was anxiety. I had an anxiety disorder. And my idea of a regular day was waking up in the morning and feeling like I was going straight downhill in a roller coaster with no restraints. I got so used to feeling like that. I thought, that was not a big deal. And the only thing that would kind of get rid of that symptom is if I had a, little cup of coffee, and then the caffeine would chase whatever that was away. Over time, there are several things that I learned to help, from a holistic standpoint, get rid of that feeling and to reshift my energies in such a way, and my whole chemical makeup, where I wasn't experiencing those kind of symptoms. For you and the women or men, too, that you work with, how does that help with, like, for instance, stress reduction, depression, anxiety? How does your modality help with that?
Depression, anxiety, stress, you really have to think outside the box when it comes to these things, especially depression. Depression is 90% of the time going to be some type of negative energy within your body, within the soul, within the well of souls, within different components of the energy within your body that is trying to bring your energy down. So that is why it's very important to access a practitioner who does know about negative entities and energies. They know how to move them out, and they know how to deal with the problem. And then you can look at, do they need a supplement? Big supplements that work very good for depression, number one is gold. Gold supplement. Liquid gold, and it is available. I do carry it on my website. I create a product. It's called Liquid Light, and I take gold water and I infuse it with certain energies to do certain things within your body that help a lot with depressions and addictions and anxieties, all these things that plague us that seem like they're going to get the best of us all the time. So depression is a very big negative energy component that you have to work with. Anxiety, you have to look within the sympathetic nervous system within somebody. That's your fight or flight nervous system. So if there's something within there like a mineral deficiency, a virus, a something or other, that is going to keep that nervous system working all the time, you're always going to be fight or flight. You're never going to be relaxed. And that just creates more and more compounded problems if it never shuts down. Anxiety and depression, you have to look at specific areas, and there are areas in the body that you look at. Depressions, you certainly want to look within the brain, within certain glands, to make sure that there's serotonins and oxytocins being made properly, and that the cortisol hormone is not overcoming anything. There's a lot of things to look at with that area, and again, everybody is different. Everybody's depression is different. Why are you depressed? Are you clinically depressed, or do you just feel low because your girlfriend dumped you? Okay, so there's differences to that.
Right. And this is all spot-on information. It really is. I know because I lived it. And, for me in particular, for those of you who are wondering about this because of your religions and everything else and spirits and everything else, there are parts of this modality that maybe you won't agree with. But there are other parts that could work for you. I absolutely do agree around the whole thing with silver and gold and all of that. I know, and metals in your system in general, there's good ones and there's not so good ones, and how to remove those and how they'll make you feel better. And it's amazing how some of these things that we think would not impact us absolutely do impact our emotional health and our physical health as well. And I think it's time for us to take a look at other modalities. It's past time and trying them, because in other parts of the world, they do this, and they have health as a result of it. So I want to make sure for all of our listeners that they know what's the best way to reach you, the best way to get in touch with you so they can learn more, and perhaps there might be some who want to contact you for a possible session.
Oh, absolutely. My website is chriskehler.net. It's spelled CHRISKEHLER. When you go onto my website, you can read up a little bit on what I do, and I do have a web store where I sell certain things. I do sell some of my tools and different items of shungite, and I do sell the liquid gold waters. On my website, there's a button you can push that says book an appointment. When you push that button, it brings you into my calendar, and you can see availabilities that I have throughout the week. You click on a day, you'll see what times are open. You can click on that time, enter all your information, and it's done. Simple as that. I'm a one-man show. I basically rent an office in a holistic healthcare center. I have no receptionist. I have nobody working with me. And that way I can keep my prices pretty low. I only charge $55 a session. So It is a very, very reasonable price. And that way it enables people to do multiple sessions if need be and not break their pocketbook. What I find is a lot of people with severe health problems don't have a job and they don't have an income, so they need to be able to afford this. That's the easiest way to do it. If you do want to contact me, and I will get back to you, I'm not one of these guys who lets you sit for a week and make you think I'm really busy. I am really busy, but you're important to me, so I want to get back to you. My email address is on the website. My phone number at the office is on the website. Please feel free to contact me. And if you have any questions whatsoever about anything I do or anything at all, send me a line.
And for those of you who are listening to the radio show and you're looking at the show page, you can see his name. You click on that. That's a hyperlink that goes directly to his website so that you can contact him right now, as a matter of fact, if you happen to be online right now. Chris, thank you so much for opening up our eyes and exposing us to another modality that can possibly help women and all the people who love them when it comes to their overall health and wellness. I really appreciate you taking the time to be on the show today.
Linus, thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Isn't that wonderful? Another thing for you to check out to find out whether or not what he's talking about will resonate with you or not. Remember, at the Wellness Journey, we love to have people on who have different forms and ways to help you to be well in your mind, body, and spirit. And Chris Kohler certainly has an interesting modality of energy work that you might want to take a look at to see if it will work for you. Thanks so much for tuning in today on The Wellness Journey. You're listening to Linus from Praiseworks, and we'll see you again next week on Tuesday at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Thank you for joining Linus of Praiseworks on The Wellness Journey. We hope that you've enjoyed today's program and have found something to help you along in your journey to total wellness for your mind, body, and spirit. For more information, please visit praiseworks.biz or find and follow us on Facebook and Twitter.